Welcome to That's So Rad Podcast. I'm your host, Jess Vangsnes. This is a podcast about people, their passions, their life experiences, and their stories. As writer Frederick Buechner once said, the story of any one of us is in some measure the story of us all. All of us can learn something valuable from someone else's life and their stories. Join us for another conversation where we learn, laugh, and leave, seeing our own life in new ways. What's more rad than that? Hey, and welcome to this episode of That's So Rad Podcast. Very, very, very excited to be joined by my wife, Jessie.
I'm happy to be here.
Okay, well, that's great. That's step one. And you're the first female guest so far.
Am I really?
Yep, that sounds fitting, right? So
okay.
And how are you?
I was going to say you have so many female friends.
Do I?
No, I'm joking.
Okay,
you don't have a lot of close female friends.
Yeah, well, that's probably good, right? But so how are you feeling? How's your rad meter doing today? Where are you at?
Well, I'm not in the best rad space of I had to get out of the shower to answer the phone to find out that our son Dakota was waiting in the office because nobody picked him up. And then come to find out you and I had a misunderstanding about that. So it's just been a chaotic last hour and a half.
Imagine that. We had a misunderstanding.
Never happens.
Never.
First time.
Never happens. And there's so much grace. Well, we'll talk more about how these moments of... But yeah, that's kind of a picture of our life, even just today, right? It's like I'm running a kid from football practice. You're getting, high schooler. You've got the elementary kid that we forget to pick up, or we thought the other person was. So, yeah.
So today it doesn't feel like a party, but not so rad. But usually, I don't think that's ever happened before. So we're doing pretty good.
That you've not felt so rad?
No, forgetting Dakota.
Yeah, no, it has happened. I know it's happened.
I remember that.
Maybe I didn't tell you about it and you were gone or something and I forgot. And
that's probably what happened.
That's probably true. So anyway, so I'm really excited to just talk to you on this podcast. It is funny because between both of us now, personally, we have 3 podcasts in some fashion. And then I'm on a work one too. So it's just, I found it funny of there's times I come on and I'm introducing the podcast and mess up the name. I'm, which one is this one? So, but I can see That's a Rad Hat logo and that's keeping me on task in this one. So,
yep.
Yeah. So anyway, just thinking about you in kind of crafting questions. I felt myself getting a little emotional of just who you are. Wearing the St. Louis hat here to commemorate where we met and our kind of awesome chapter in St. Louis for I think 8 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say so. Okay,
5.
So 5. Okay,
5 years.
Wait a second. Together.
You were there for 8 years. That makes sense.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But we were only there for 5 years.
We were only married in St. Louis for 5 years. So you were there for 2 years. We met and dated for a year and got married.
Wow.
And then 5 years after that. So we're both right.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of that in marriage. We're both right. Can we both be right in most things? Okay, so you tell us and people that don't have any background on who you are, just kind of a flyover of who you are, what you do.
Okay. So, Jess Vangsnes. I'm mom of 5, wife to you. We live in South Carolina. I'm an Enneagram and attachment coach. I also have done some marketing work and contracted artwork. I kind of have a lot of different little jobs, but just like working with people.
Mm-hmm.
I think my biggest mission in life is to see people, to help them feel known and understood.
Yeah. Well, you do that well. And I've got a kid texting us. Turn my phone off. Okay. So, yeah, that's a great flyover of who you are. And let's just dive right into how we met back in the Lou in 2007.
Uh-huh. Yep,
Sweet.
2007. We met on a online Christian dating platform that doesn't exist anymore called loveandseek.com. And you can fill in any details that I get wrong. But I usually get them right. So we let's see, I was leading a middle school youth group, and I was searching for some games to do with the kids. And back then we had all those annoying pop-ups, and about 7 times this dating site popped up. And I was just kind of in this season where there wasn't any looking to go create a profile or try to date, but it just kept popping up. And so I was like, it's a free profile, whatever. I'm just going to look. So I went in there, and the first person that I saw or that caught my attention was Travis. And he had photos of him riding on a llama and a picture of the car that he owned at the time, which was a very creatively painted station wagon.
That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah. So just enough oddities got my attention, and I'm like, man, I need to just be friends with this guy. So we started talking and became friends for about a month, and you can take it from there.
Yep, happy to jump in here. It's always entertaining thinking back to this, because I feel like I'm not sure that the details are changing, but the focus on what details has changed over the years. I feel like earlier on it was much more romantic. Now it sounds like your rendition of how we met was your computer got a virus, that you just got this continual pop-up blocker virus or pop-up that just kept hitting your computer.
Let me stop you for a second. What is really romantic about meeting each other in a chat room?
I don't know. I guess it's just more.
I don't think the way we met was super romantic ever. It was more I do think that there's a highlight on God's hand in the fact that there was barely anybody on that website.
Okay, well let me tell. Okay, you threw the gauntlet down. What's romantic? Okay, well let me jump in. Okay, so unlike your story of the pop-up windows and the virus, that which I think maybe was a foreshadowing of what was to come, and a a loving but turbulent marriage at times of just okay, so here's mine. I see this woman, this beautiful lady, who their green eyes just captivated me. I was just like, I mean, whatever you're wearing there, that top, kind of similar to your eyes right there, color. And I just was smitten. And your story about who you were, oh man, it was just, can't wait to meet this lady. So, okay. So, and yours is
well,
more I had this very small pool of men to draw from. And in fact, you were, I was the only one under 50 or something that was.
In fairness, though, the way you filled out your profile was a joke. Like you made it, you weren't trying to be romantic. You weren't trying to tell your vulnerable true story of who you really were. It was kind of a goofy profile. And so you caught my attention from the oddities and the humor.
Okay. Okay.
And
Well, yeah, I like
you
that.
okay, I will say you were really, I thought you were hot. So
Oh,
there's
okay.
that
Well,
too.
the hot even. Well, okay. I'll thank you. I'll take that. And, but it is funny looking back. We joke about like eHarmony and all these things. And like, I mean, it's this, you have this pop-up thing. I might have subscribed or did a trial thing. It's just like, but let me try the most discounted website of meeting someone. And that's where I'm going to, yeah, if you want to discount, what's your priority. So anyway, but we met in person at a coffee shop after that. Didn't want to hang out too long online and get real weird and awkward. At a coffee shop, you brought a friend along to protect yourself or whatever. And then we laughed because then at the end of the night, you were wondering, like, was he more into her or me? Or like, that's where
I know. I was like, because I didn't talk as much as she did. And I'm like, did I like give away my date?
Were you like kicking her under the table at all? Or was there ever like you looking at her with like hey, but it's funny. All right. Funny to reminisce back on that. So here we are, now in 2025, we just celebrated this year our 17th.
That was last year. We're about to celebrate 18.
Well, okay.
In a month.
Yeah, in a month. So I'm still current though. So
you're right.
Yeah. I mean, I am right. So, but and so that's 17 years of a lot of awesome times and yeah, some hard times, of course, but it's been a wild ride and I'm so grateful doing it with you.
I am too, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about just our family. Anything you want to say or we want to say about how after these many years?
Family. I mean, which direction you want to go?
Well, just so we have a 6-year-old all the way up to a freshman in college, and so really 4 teenagers.
Yeah.
All super proud of them and who they're becoming, and then we have a 6-year-old who's feistier than anyone else, and yeah, it's kind of 2 different chapters of parenting that kind of coexist for us. So yeah,
it's really fun though, just getting to see all the teenagers kind of come into their own interests and where they want to go to college and what they want to study, and really being devoted to sports. It's a cool time. It's very busy, but I like the humans that we at least we created 3 of them because we adopted 2.
Yeah.
They're pretty great though, all of them, all 5 of them.
And the 2 we adopted have just changed our lives forever. I just can't imagine our lives without Jay and Dre, and how they've taught us things and helped form us, and we've gotten to hopefully teach them stuff and help form them. And so but yeah, it's been.
Yeah, I do think that our parenting together, that's something I'm really proud of. That the way we parent our kids together, I think we're a really good team in most of the ways that we approach. I mean, we're obviously still human, but we seem to have the same values and are aligned with have been with discipline, with expectations, with just the right focus in places, and we actually match up, and so that's been really good.
Yeah, I mean, we have so many sparks and arguments and a lot of things that we have to work on and be patient with, and we just had a date last night that ended halfway through with arguments and not seeing eye to eye, but it's just being real. We have to work on that stuff. So, but one of the things is parenting. I feel like we've, for the most part, really been on the same page, have a lot of the same philosophies, came from two, families that were very different in terms of parenting. Right. And yet we found kind of our own place there that I think, has been. So, yeah. All right.
So we're just getting started.
Just getting started. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things, when we talk about our marriage and, just being real about who we are, how we're wired, how we show up in the world together is we just tell people this, like our marriage needs projects. We need creative energy. It's so, like talk a little bit about what you see with that and kind of what that's looked like for us all these years, really going back to when we were dating.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's interesting thinking about how that began when we were dating. Like I can think back to when we were just friends and dating, starting to date. We were part of a 20s group at this church where there was, worship and service and we were doing all kinds of stuff with these like young 20s. To mid 20s. And, we were starting to make these like edited video promos for like the fun nights, and like we would plan these like activities. And so like we were kind of part of the leadership team in that way, that we were planning the fun stuff together. And so like not only were we just planning the stuff, we were also doing t-shirts and promos, and like we just turned it all into a production. And that was just really natural to both of us, like because you're kind of high energy doer and I'm really high creative. And so like the combination, and you're creative too, but the combination of those things coming together, like we really had a lot of like energy and intensity to like make stuff happen. And we really gel around like creating new things and exciting people and bringing people together. So that side of it, as far as projects, like when we were dating, I can think of that. And then like we've led groups together for years through church, and then we've renovated a house together. We then renovated a camper after that, and then we built a little cabin in Landrum, South Carolina, and then sold that, and then built houses.
Don't leave out the 40-foot Greyhound bus that was purchased off of eBay, and
we never got to renovate.
It was a disaster. Yes,
that was the plan, but
that was the plan.
We didn't keep it.
We didn't keep it.
I'm still really sad about that. Every time you bring it up.
The big epic failure. Yep. Bought this giant bus, watched a lot of HGTV, thought we'd have a mobile tiny home, and realized I was way too scared to drive it. And that's someone that grew up on a farm driving big stuff, but it was unbelievably scary. So that was a fail, but hey, you gotta take those big swings, Yep. I mean, what's life if you don't risk buying a Greyhound on eBay? and
that's not the only
fallout that happened, or that
not the only vehicle you've bought on eBay.
Well, there was a smaller school bus, so we went all the way the other direction and bought a very small, short bus that had that for a while, and renovated that some, and we camped one or two times in it. Yep. And parted ways as well. But it is funny because like looking back, of just like you said, when we were dating, like there was this energy, and it was almost like it was part of the foundation of like, I just remember whether we were coming up with a funny video thing to film together for that group, or just whatever. Like it was, I mean.
Yeah. And then when we started working at the children's home, where we met our sons, that was another thing that was just like we got to, after 5 years of marriage, we got to work together and
Yeah.
be a team and, lead these kids and create great games and,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
adventures and take them on trips. And it was just like, it was always like it was a living project that we
Yeah.
were constantly
That's true.
shaping how we were going to do life with these kids that came from trauma. And like, it was
Yeah.
our mission to make it fun and healing and all this stuff. So,
Yeah. No, I didn't think of it in that way, but yeah, as that being arguably our most important, if you want to say, project of our life up to this point. And I mean, obviously being, parents as well, just like in a way of that as a place to pour out our energy and stuff. But yeah, just that experience working with kids at the group home and foster care, and relying on one another, having each other's back, having to be creative, crazy creative at times. I mean, having to, if there were explosive behaviors, having to get creative around that, or switch places, or distract, just all the things. It was like, yeah. So, but one of the things, lastly, kind of just about a little bit about us and kind of our marriage together and who we are together. I think part of what's been awesome for us is the shared values, right? I mean, I think for couples to really work well and to really be healthy, I mean, you have to have shared values. I mean, you kind of brought up that point recently as we're talking about that, but what would you say are some of the values that we really share together?
Well, we like adventure. We both really aren't, well, we don't value like expensive things. We value experiences. We value authenticity and like having real conversations. So we've like, back to parenting, I know everybody has different approaches for what they share with their kids and how they talk to their kids. And we've always been pretty frank with our kids about just the good, bad, everything, just been honest with them about different things going on in the world or things going on between us. Like, it's just, we don't really hide stuff. Like, that authenticity and realness comes through from both sides. So, we share those values, and also, I think community and people, like, it's ebbed and flowed. I think when you started caring for your dad, we had to pull back some from community, before he passed. And then, it's just been the last, 2 years, we've kind of gone back to kind of bringing people together and having bonfires and, planning stuff. But we really, really enjoy seeing people happy and having fun and meeting other people and, having good conversations with new people, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's I loved hearing that. Like, and it reminds me of a line of like, a good marriage is like a bonfire. It's inviting. It brings people in to kind of the warmth of, kind of your family and who you are. Bad marriage is like a bad pyrotechnics display. That's dangerous. And you're running around for your life trying to get away. So there's a fine line there, but
so there are very different bonfires, though. Some of them,
different types of fire,
small, and
and some of them you run from. But yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I think, like, as we kind of put a wrap on this part of just talking about, like, I guess things we're celebrating and looking back at our relationship, too, is like that sense of, like, I want to call it like healthy risk. I think that's a little bit behind some of our creative side too. Like, and so when I say that, I mean, like, not doing like, so with some of the Airbnb stuff we've done, or buying, say a bus to renovate and, didn't spend a lot.
Yeah.
I think that, and it's often you meet couples where there's this kind of tension between one of the spouses really is a dreamer, and the other one is kind of the brakes. And that's probably good in many ways, because if both, both are like, they might be instantly homeless, you know, like if you were just always crazy risks and dreaming or whatever. But so I think but at the same time that's probably healthy in a way to kind of counterbalance. I think it's saddened me a little bit in it's kind of some of the relationships I've seen where I think it's almost like, I think that's also what has led us to kind of some of the adventure excitement, probably even bonding that maybe wouldn't have been there if it was always like, well, so and so, you know, one of us had a dream, one was always like, no, we're never doing that, no, we can't do that. I mean, over time, I mean, that does probably grow resentment too, but just like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that part of that dynamic of us taking healthy risk is like, I don't think either of us are really that scared of failing. Like neither of us have this strong, like, I don't want to try something because I might fail. Like that's
right.
just not either of us, our personality. And
Yep.
not that that's, I mean, like, you know, everybody's different. You know, we have made mistakes and we've, you know, created things or bought things or, you know, not thought things through at times. Um, but it's never been so big that it's like, oh wow, we really got to stop, you know, creating
Right.
this chaos or whatever. It's like,
Right.
no, like every single thing we've ever faced, we learn something from it. And most of the things that I can think about, they've been nothing but good and an adventure, and they turned out really exciting and fun. And, you know, so being creative and taking that healthy risk and then not being afraid to fail, it's like, oh, you're just learning, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly. You're just learning. That's a great line. Because I think a lot of times we have, we've had people, and part of it because of all the stuff we have done, and you know, tried, or you know, whether it was an Airbnb business or developing land on a mountain or whatever, just so many different things. Um, and you know, kind of the people that sometimes are like, I can't believe, you know, almost like, um, sometimes it's felt like some people, you know, you almost feel like people make it a bigger deal than it really is, or like that it's just like you're in some way legendary or whatever for that. And a lot of times it's like, no, I mean, I think it's just like we just wanted to try it. And again,
Yeah.
healthy risk. I mean, it's not like, for instance, a big giant investment that if it,
Yeah.
you know, fail, I mean, because that is a major thing to think through. But I think it's just a lot of it is just like, what is the worst that could go wrong, you know, in a case
Yeah.
like some of this
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, and for both of us too, it's probably, I've had the sense of like, I don't want to live life where at the end of it there's all this regret over, oh, I wish we would have done this or tried that, or you like, I mean, some of it is that adage of like, you live once, and like lean into living. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
And I
but
think at the same time, another value we share is that we're both really frugal and neither of us
yeah.
spends a ton of money. So if we do spend money on something that's like adventure and experience, it's always like this it's a creative
Yeah.
twist on how can we do it as cheap as possible
Sure.
and still do what we want to do.
Yeah.
So that's also been really fun to kind of just figure out together. And like we're both really proud when it's like, oh, we saved so much money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything else you want to say about marriage, relationships, our history as us or family or values?
No, I mean, you know, you've definitely highlighted the fact that we have sparks,
Mm-hmm.
and that, you know, no marriage is perfect. We, you know, I mean, I am a relationship coach and I work with people on this stuff, but it does not at all come from a place of like I've got it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
figured out and we are, you know, just rolling and you know have this like effortless marriage.
Right.
It's not the case. We
Right.
have to work very, very hard to stay connected. We have
Yeah.
rhythms and routines that we are very invested in trying to keep things as healthy as possible and to just keep growing
Mm-hmm.
and becoming better versions of who God made us to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's like we We have a really good marriage in the sense that we both keep really trying. There's no giving up. There's no
Mm-hmm.
ignoring um, what we have to do. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But also being real of like, there's times where it's like, there's breaks and timeouts of like, hey, I mean, whether
yeah.
it's argument or something that we have a breakdown, and you're very much about like, for you, of like emotional safety and being like, hey, this is, Trav, right now you're too intense or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not always just anger, it's just like maybe your feelings and passion in this moment are just too intense for my,
Yeah.
what you would say, like just your system overwhelmed. So
Yeah.
it's like, hey, I
Yeah, my
need
nervous
to,
system.
yeah, your
Like
nervous system.
I can't handle
Right.
certain levels of intensity for too long, like for a while, but
Yeah.
then when it just doesn't come down, I'm like I have to take a break. This is not going to be
Yeah.
productive here in about a second.
Yeah. And I mean, that just recently happened, those types of things. So we're just real of like, yeah, I think we are blessed in many ways of like, we have a really high sparks and passion for one another in life. And when I'm overly stressed or not coping well or not using tools, which I'm still trying to grow in, emotional IQ,
Mm-hmm.
um, that, yeah, it can be really tough, and we're very different. And,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, so that is, we'll probably talk a little bit more about that, but I
But
do want to,
I will say, and
mm-hmm.
you probably feel the same, but I would not want to do life with anybody but you.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
Well,
You're my favorite person to fight with.
I'll say the same. And, in the moment, probably you don't think that, but, um, yeah, you probably, as an emotional coach, emotional and personal relationship coach, there's probably times you think, yeah, I'm married to someone who has pushed all of my knowledge and experience to the limit. And there's
It's a
times I've not.
catalyst.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, okay. Let me remind you next time that, hey, this is just a catalyst. I know you want to like
It's a
push me
catalyst
out.
for all my learning.
The next time you want to push me out of the car, I'll try and say that. So, okay. So anyway, landing the plane on all this, want to move on and really focus on you. That's kind of the style of this podcast so far. I've had a lot of kind of intro banter together. But I really want to focus the rest of the stretch on you, as a rad person, and who you are. So I wrote this description up, and I'm going to kind of read this a little bit because I just put my thoughts together. But um, I've this is not false praise. I mean, I'm a straight shooter. I don't like, that. I'm a direct person. I don't just say things I don't mean. So
Yeah.
when I say this, I mean, you are unquestionably, I would say, the most talented person I know. Um, and I'm sure there's a lot of nods if you're listening, Jesse.
Mm.
There's hardly anything you cannot do. Um, I'm just going to name graphic design. You were a caricature artist. You can cook or bake anything. Abstract art. A gifted relationship and emotional IQ coach. You're an Enneagram trainer. You are immersed in soul care stuff and all what you're learning about rhythms and kind of that aspect. You've largely built the Airbnb business. You're visionary to develop the land we have in East Tennessee. You designed and built a deck on a tiny house container. You can sketch instant architectural designs for tiny house living spaces. You're an author in process, we'll talk about. And lastly, and most importantly, you one time did a tattoo on me from a tattoo gun I got off eBay. And you just
Against my
dove
will.
against your will. Okay, so you, the tattoo gun against your will that you did on my shoulder, and that's yeah. But
Healthy risk.
healthy risk. Gosh, yeah. So
I don't know about that one.
I don't know. Maybe that's not healthy. But all that to say, what and why I say all this, partly in this, okay, it's not just buttering you up. So
You make me cry. That's the most squirming I've done in a while. I'm like, I can't keep listening to all these compliments.
All right. Well, I'm throwing them on heavy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. But when I thought of that, where I wanted to go with this though is I'm going somewhere with it. And part of it, because it is fascinating, it is not common, but I think it's also not, I really want to hear from you on this, because I do think there's a lot of natural gifting in some of this stuff for sure. But I also think there's a huge part of it that you are just willing to just do things and try things and learn. And that I think like there's a lot of people that just count themselves out. And so they could do more diversity of types of things, but it's like, well, no, I'm just one dimensional. I only do this, or I can only do that. So that's all the backdrop here to say, I want you to weigh in on that, because it's so diverse of all the things that you can do. But in your past, you have a pretty tough history looking back to your youth and childhood of learning and what that was like for you in school. So talk a little bit about that and your experience to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to unpack, but I think the specific question about the why am I so diverse in all the different things I like to figure out and learn, or I've done over the years. So as a youth and as a child, I had pretty significant learning challenges that were just like outside of my control. ADHD, dyslexia, bullying. I had some, my family was wonderful. They did absolutely what they could to work with me in my disabilities and things like that. But the experiences I had in school, I largely just had this messaging that that I can't learn, that I'm not smart, and that the only thing I can really do is be an artist. Like that's how I can find love and belonging was painting or drawing or whatever. So that was my trajectory. And it was probably my early 20s when I was kind of going through my just first healing journey began. And I realized how wrong I was about my not being capable of learning things and doing things, and that I just started testing and challenging some of the, like an inability to read books, for instance, was something I had since childhood. It was just like, no, I can't read. I can't understand it. I can't remember it. I'm just not a reader. I'm not going to read. Well, then therefore I can't learn. And so that I challenged, and it was just sort of an experimenting time of saying, you know what, like there are things I want to do. I no longer believe that I'm not capable. I just have to figure out how to work with my brain and in my life. And so like, I can't speak to everybody else, but I know for me, it was like, wow, I went most of my life thinking I'm not smart and I can't learn. And I have all these like limitations. And then once I tested that and challenged it and realized like, no, there's not really any limit. You just have to get creative and you have to figure out what works for you. And once I started reading books, it was like, I realized, all these different people who were like me, and they found ways to learn what they needed to learn to do what they want to do. It was just like whatever's in front of you. And so, whether it be an opportunity to do an internship for graphic design when I was in my early 20s and work for an independent artist and, learn from him, and then, draw caricatures at a theme park. And it was just like, I kind of just, each new thing, although I had insecurity that was like, I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before. Where there was a part of me that just was like, no, don't do that. What if you fail? Like everybody has that voice, but I think I just was like, I felt like a failure most of my life already. I'm done feeling that way. I'm just going to try it.
Yep.
and just figure it out, because like, what's the worst that could happen?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't go well. Well, like,
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, that's awesome. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. Because, and that's kind of a theme already in this conversation, is like taking on risk, or what does it mean to fail, and not being stopped by the possibility. Because yeah, I think probably wanted to highlight that is just like, that's one of the things I think I really, really love and respect in you, of just knowing your story, is that it's easy for a lot of people to see someone that is really talented in so many things, and just like almost like the jealousy over, just like, again, some of this is for sure natural talent. I mean, we're not saying, I mean, not everybody could just be a caricature artist or a graphic designer, or, but a lot of the things that have been learned things are truly about, more about like the will to just say, I'm just going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to take it on, and then continue to gain confidence. Because looking back on who you were at a time, and you've already said it, but just how your self-esteem and the thought that I can't do hardly these things, or,
Mm-hmm.
kind of being broken down by, people that should be pouring in, like teachers and stuff, and really encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you've kind of come out of the ashes.
Yeah. Well, I guess we've talked about this before, that internal motivation versus external motivation, that I didn't have a lot of external motivators that were really affirming, at
Mm-hmm.
least at school, I didn't have that. And so most of my schooling was just like, you can't. And I just felt kind of just so unsafe in those environments, where like I always felt like I looked stupid. I
Mm-hmm.
sounded stupid. I didn't know, I didn't understand things well.
Yep.
And later, I think it shifted to sort of this, like, if I'm going to do stuff, it's not going to be um, externally motivated by trying to make this person happy,
Yeah.
because I feel like I always make everybody so it's like, I have to
Mm.
do it for me.
Yep.
I have to do
Yep.
these. If I'm going to learn this, I'm going to try this. In the end, it's got to be because I want to do it,
Mm.
and no other reason. So,
That's good.
you know, and I get a satisfaction out of being able to learn something new and figure something new out. And so I have like just done a lot of stuff,
Sure.
because and
Yep.
I get bored too. I think maybe that's part of the explanation. It's not that I'm just like so brave. I think I get bored after about a year, 2 years, 3 years max doing one thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of need a whole new creative outlet.
Right. Uh,
So,
Another frontier to possibly fail on, but I'm going to take it on. Um, no, that's good. That is true. Like, you have a shelf life on what you're kind of invested creatively in.
mhm.
Maybe that's the genius of creativity.
I
Um,
don't know.
I don't know. It's getting too deep for this podcast. I mean, a podcast called Rad, you just can't get, that's the deep end there. So I do want to ask you though, too, in thinking about that. Well, and maybe you've already somewhat answered this, but what explains some of all of the just crazy diversity of the types of stuff you've done? Is it partly the boredom that drives to the net, but categorically, that's what I'm
I
curious,
guess there is an adventure in it. Like, there's a little bit of like a um usually there's a common thread of there's something creative about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe the skills are, I need to like learn a program, or I need to um figure out how to, say I'm doing a mural, like
Mm-hmm.
just how do I project the image on the wall to get the mural done the way that I think it needs to be done. Well, I've never done that before. And so I'm just researching and figuring out like what do I need to project the design onto the wall so that
Mm-hmm.
I can actually
Yeah.
accomplish the goal. And
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, just curiosity, I guess. Like, if I'm curious
That's a good one.
and I keep asking questions, then I can solve the problem and I can do the thing I've never done before.
That is the curiosity. Uh-huh. Yeah. Um, and for me, I know, like, because I feel like there's a lot of things I try to take on or I'm not scared of not taking on, but my motivation is maybe a little different, but it's just like I kind of came from, and some of it for me is the formative place of North Dakota and growing up and just kind of not having much, not, but it was also pretty rugged at times of just like, you just figure stuff out. Like like just being with my dad and our limited resources, it was just like, the harsh landscape. It was just like, well, there's no one else coming. So you broke down out in the field, and you don't have the money to just like have, I don't know how, I literally can picture my dad laying under a broken implement or combine for hours.
Yeah. It's
And,
like tenacious self-sufficiency.
yeah, just because, and so some of that was instilled of just like, no one's coming. And I'm not saying that's also good, because then there can be an over-reliance on like not even asking for help later, even when there is help coming. Yeah. So, that's probably more my struggle. But anyway, just interjected there my own thing.
Yeah. So. No, you definitely have a lot of those types of things too, where you just figure stuff out. You fixed so many of our vehicles, and you were never like a huge vehicle guy, but like you just learned.
Some of that's too just from scarcity. Like, I'm not crazy high mechanical IQ, but I do like some of that stuff. But a lot of it is just like, I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay like whatever, so I can, I'll do, I'll learn how to do, within reason type stuff. So, anyway, so yeah, well, kind of on that note, kind of the things that formed you. What are some of, if you look at your life, what are some of the most formative things that have shaped you as you've kind of reflect back? You just turned 41.
Yeah, I'm 41. I think to go along with the, I'm going to have to go deep, even though it's That's So Rad podcast, but one of the most formative things is I was arrested for a DUI when I was 19, and that was a crossroads. It was a very pivotal time. I had been in several years of overusing alcohol, and I think the crowd I was running with, the ways that I was coping with, insecurity and stress, this was before, I really realized that I could do things, and I was smart and I was capable and all this. That was the catalyst to, because what happened was I set a boundary with a lot of my friends, and I said, I will not party anymore. I'm not going to. So if you want to hang out with me, you come to me and we go to dinner or whatever. And pretty quickly, every single friend that I had like chose partying over me. So I was alone for a long time, and I met a few really good friends that took me to church, and I started to understand the love that God had for me, and found kind of safety in relationships and community. And then wasn't that long after I met you, and we just, I think that experience of having everything stripped away and having to start over, although I wouldn't have chosen it, and there was a lot of issues with my own having to deal with those consequences of what I had done. It gave me a perspective that I don't know that everybody gets that young, I guess. Everybody makes mistakes, but like that was a big one, and I definitely had to learn how I was going to grow through it.
Man, that's well said, and really explains a lot of kind of what you did to cope. And it actually makes me think of, and we've talked about this before, but the way you said it really made me think of when we look at our relationship and the origin of us. It is very interesting, and I think is not a coincidence that in our story and God's redemption of our stories, that at the same time, really chronologically different places on the map in the country. I had just walked out of a failed marriage where, my previous wife had, sort of, it was done and walked out of the marriage. And
she walked out on you.
She walked out on me. And,
yeah.
And
I mean, I just wanted to clarify that because I didn't want it to sound like,
I didn't know how I said
like
it,
you walked out. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So she walked out, but, and so my life was stripped down to what is my identity now again, and grieving that loss and all of that. And then who am I now, single. And like you kind of said in your story of like kind of being stripped bare with, in what you knew and kind of your friend circle and kind of, the party scene, and then gaining sobriety and kind of this new chapter, new life. I mean, and I was entering, that I literally was emerging from that same space of just like stripped bare and like, and so like our origin of meeting together were both these lives that for different reasons and different circumstances were stripped bare. Yeah. And in healing and coming out of the dark shadows. And yeah.
Well, I think there was sort of like both of us were like, all right, I'm not playing around here. Like life is so much more than just messing around with like, we're sort of dating. Like, cause I think we started talking about marriage after 3 months.
Yeah.
Well, it was pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, and I'm saying this jokingly, but like when we talk at the beginning of this about like my dating profile being really goofy, and riding llamas and just, whatever I said on there, it was in part because I really love someone with a sense of humor. And it was like, I'm not wasting time. Like if you don't think someone that's goofy and maybe weird, but whatever, and just has a high sense of humor, like if you can't roll with that, like deuces. I mean, like go,
and I'm here
go
for
it. I'm here for you're here on front row seat. So, but yeah, kind of that same thing of like, we're not playing around. Like, let's just, and so, yeah. So, well, moving forward as we kind of hit the home stretch in this conversation, you have some really exciting stuff either currently going down or on the horizon. You ready to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay. So you have, I want to talk about Transforming Us. And then we're going to talk about your new book project. But first of all, Transforming Us, bring us all into this world.
Yeah. Okay. So Transforming Us is sort of a project that my friend Tamara Brown and I created together. Like I said, I've been coaching for like 4 years. She's got certified and is newer to coaching, but we both very much value the systems of using the Enneagram, which is personality assessment tool, and just one of the most accurate tools for looking at your patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And then also attachment theory, which is kind of your earliest connections. So usually parental relationships and stuff, but that you can have insecure attachment. And then there's certain patterns that go with that affect your relationships. It affects, a lot of things that how you show up in life. So those two systems we're using in coaching. And so we decided what a great way to, talk about how to apply these systems other than a podcast. So we have Transforming Us podcast just launched. So I guess we'll put a link
in
for that.
the show notes. That's right.
Notes. And then we also launched a website. So the website has a lot of like free assessments and guides for getting started, and just kind of what we do. So yeah, if anybody's curious about that, follow along, listen to the podcast, look at the website. We have a newsletter that is only valuable teaching, helpful coaching stuff. So if you want to subscribe, it's not a weekly like sales pitch. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like
Yeah.
just helpful ideas and stuff, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's a blessing to people. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's transforming us.
It's super cool. I've I've been in the house as you guys have recorded, so you've built up episode recordings to kind of, which is great to have a runway. And so and I know Tamara as well, and so really cool to see what you guys are doing. You're both very talented and creative, and you're already you dropped this episode, and like you're getting tons of rave reviews from friends, and I mean, you are really so gifted in the space of like just coaching people, helping people with tools and resources, helping them see um, the possibility. Like I say this a lot about you, but like as an artist, like I always feel like, uh, the lens in which you see the world, there's a canvas everywhere, including people's lives. And a lot of people that are struggling have lost the sense of maybe beauty, possibility. They've lost like their bearings on their own canvas. And I feel like you have a way of coming in and seeing their life in their belovedness and how God sees them, and that it's not over. The chapter's not over. Redemption is happening. There's tools, there's gifts. You have something to give to the world, and by gosh, you're going to. And you kind of just encourage that out of people and really see possibility. I know you've done it in my life too. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, it's like the desire to help somebody feel seen and know, okay, not only do I see you and what you're going through, I see where you're at right now. And I think the beauty in coaching is kind of that, like, from here to there, you're saying, I see where you are here, but you're telling me you want to go
yeah,
there. You want life to look like this instead. You
yeah,
want your relationships to look like this instead. And so what's the path? How do
yeah,
you take a path to a more secure place, and have patterns that are a little healthier, a little more stable, a little more
mm-hmm,
consistent,
mm-hmm,
positive, things like that. And there's just so many great tools and resources that I've learned for my own journey that I just really want to share, And so
yeah,
that from here to there is like, that's the hope of, I see you and where you're at, but I also see where you can go if you want
yeah,
to, you know?
yeah. Yeah, and I was just reminded recently too of just how much we need to be seen. That's
Mm-hmm.
step one alone of just everyone has an innate need to want to be seen, and we're constantly losing that sense of being seen. And we also have the opportunity to give others a gift throughout our days of seeing them too, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a gift. So reciprocal sight. So now let's pivot to your book, which is underway. You've got a strong draft out there. You're kind of revising and editing. You're in that stage. First book, indie author. Let's go. Let's go. So, talk about a little about the book. What's that about?
So the book's title at this point is From Guarded to Grounded, and it's Shed Self-Protection, Embrace Vulnerability with Enneagram Attachment and Parts Work. So it really is a companion to this like coaching stuff. I have collected a lot of the content and the teaching and just ideas for years, and I've just had I had another coaching kind of curriculum
Mm-hmm.
for clients that was okay, but it just wasn't quite what I wanted it to be, um and I never ever in my wildest dreams would have said I was going to write a book. Like, you've said for years that one day I will, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, why? Like, I don't need to write a book. But I was walking one day in our neighborhood, and there are these 3 American chestnut trees. And I've watched every year them go through their kind of life cycle and the seasons of, it begins with a bloom, you have the
Mm-hmm.
flower, and then after pollination, you get these tiny little burrs that form around seeds. And they just grow, right? So like a spiky burr forms,
Mm-hmm.
and it is the self-protective outer shell to this inner seeds. And so for many months, you have the tiny burr that's soft. It turns into a bigger burr that's really spiky and really prickly. Like you can't even touch them. And they're hanging on these trees, and it's the coolest and weirdest thing you'll ever see,
Mm.
which seems completely unrelated to my book. But the fact is that these chestnut trees, it hit me one day, every single cycle they go through after the burr splits open,
Mm-hmm.
those seeds on the inside are exposed, and it's like that's the potential for growth. Like the
Mm.
seeds have to become bare and exposed and vulnerable, and then they go into the ground, and after sprouting, that's the potential for a mature tree.
Mm.
And so it's like the journey of self-awareness and kind of dying to the unnecessary parts of yourselves, and really living into who God made you to be. It's like all those concepts with the tools that I've learned, it became
Mm-hmm.
this container in my mind for a story, that like a visual story. And then there's stories throughout the book, of, you know, I'd change people's names, but just like different situations with clients I've had in the past that were in the inspiration for a story that drives home the point about, a certain Enneagram patterns or
Mm-hmm.
attachment insecurities, or what it looks like to understand the parts within inside yourself that get divided, that need integration. So
Mm.
that was the inspiration for starting the book, but it has never been. I mean, it's one of the easiest things I've done,
Mm.
to sit down, and it just kind of like pours out of me, like the connection of the ideas to each of the stages of the chestnut.
Yeah. Well, that means that, yeah, there's a lot of inspiration and passion behind it to have it just flow like that. And so, yeah. But me watching you from, peripherally, it's like, yeah, this thing has appeared quickly and has really come to life. So,
Well,
um,
you're reading it right now. So what are
yep.
your initial thoughts about the book?
Well, I love analogies. And so I think just the imagery throughout it of like, you have some great quotes, which know me, I'm all about quotes. So really thought provoking quotes. It's just woven with tools. I mean, to me, it's a mix of it's not going to be a long book, but it's a dense book. What I mean dense is not that it can't be understood. But it's like a steeping, and that some of those are the best books there are, just as a resource. Like just, it's not overwhelming to be so thick you're never going to read it, but in it, it's jam packed with just like, practical tools and tips and reminders and questions, and then kind of with that analogy always in the background. And then you flow other ones through there as well that
Mm,
just kind of keep you thinking and imagining. So
yeah.
yeah. Name of the book is
From Guarded to
is
Grounded.
From Guarded to Grounded,
Yeah.
and at the time of this release of this episode, it's not going to be out there for purchase. But if you're listening to this down the road, like into, I don't know, early 26 and beyond, um, this would be on Amazon. So,
Yeah.
yep. Okay, final stretch, and can be like so maybe a little more rapid fire, but I have two final questions zoomed out.
Okay.
What are you most proud of in your life today?
Oh, I think being a mom. I mean, I think if I strip everything away, as creative and as much as we like projects and all these things, everything gets measured against my ability to homeschool our kids and give them the opportunities to like feel safe in their life. So if that means, relieving stress in one area so that they can work on their school, or just, still pushing them to grow and learn and, move towards adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
But if ever it gets to the point where it's changing them, or
Yep.
it's not good, that I have the freedom to, you know, change stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
and we'll do whatever we need to. So I think being a mom is probably what I'm most proud of, and it will always be my legacy.
Yeah. Great mom. All right. The finale is, love to ask all the guests this. But where do you find your inspiration spark in your life still at kind of kind of into that middle age now? Where's your spark? What keeps you going in life?
Okay, this probably sounds a little cliche, so I'm going to try to make it sound less cliche. But I have really, even just in the past few years, have a deeper understanding of what it looks like to live in the Spirit of God, and to listen, not just talk at Him all the time, but to listen to where He's showing me things in my life. Again, being curious, and being willing to be like led.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that all the conversations we've had today are a version of sometimes it's an excitement, I'm just going for something, but there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times there's a curiosity and a listening, and when I see things line up and things just seem like God is gifting something, or His goodness is there, or whatever, leaning into that, and not being afraid. That's it. That's where inspiration comes from.
Hmm. And in that way, it would be endless inspiration if, it's God pouring out
Mm-hmm.
His inspiration spirit.
Yeah.
So that's where Jesse's well, as everyone's probably like, how do you do so much and so, so much passion, creativity to things? I mean, that's probably a big part of it. So, yeah. Well, it's been super rad to hang out with you on this one. Have you over in this podcast.
I know we don't spend enough time together.
We didn't even get into that, did we? Man, that's another episode. But like ever since I would say 2013, being house parents, and then kind of then on have, mostly worked from home. We are one of those couples who navigate the blessing and curse of always being together in a way. So, and it can be both.
Yeah.
But, yep. All right. Well, it's been great.
It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Hope you enjoyed the episode today. Check out the show notes for any links or resources shared in the episode. If you enjoy the podcast, it would be really appreciated if you'd subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share it with friends. May we all remember these words from writer Mary Oliver. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it.